Now, the Qatari Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, is due to meet with US Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff in Florida later on Thursday. The meeting comes ahead of the next exchange of Israeli captives for Palestinian prisoners as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal, which is expected on Saturday. Let's take this on with Rami Khouri, who's a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut, joins us now from Boston in the United States, in fact. So, Rami, first up, what's your sense of this conversation that's going to be had between the Qatari Prime Minister and Steve Witkoff? It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in the light of what President Trump has been saying.
Oh, absolutely. It's a critical relationship. Qatar has proved to be, with Egypt, essential to get the process moving to the point where we are now, starting the second phase of the negotiations, which would ultimately get the Israelis out of Gaza, all hostages and prisoners released, and the end of the war. So the problem is that the Qatari position is clear, the Egyptian position is clear, the Hamas position is quite clear, but the Israeli position and the American position are like a kaleidoscope. They keep moving around and new ideas are presented. There are huge internal debates within Israel that keep throwing obstacles into the way of the process. Netanyahu's legal fate is on the line. He has to go to court. He may go to jail. So there are lots of moving parts that are not clear what the implications are. And the latest is, of course, Trump's proposal to get the Palestinians out of Gaza, which already is being walked back by his senior officials, his foreign minister, his Middle East envoy, his press secretary. They're all kind of walking back, saying, "Oh, this is temporary." Not by him, because he doesn't really have a clear idea of what he's talking about. He's a showman. He does drama, he does disruption, and he does disillusion. And he's really a delusion. He's really done all of these in this proposal. It's kind of make-believe. It's not going to work. Very few people in the world want it. Most governments have opposed it. So what he says gets the discussion moving. The real question that nobody has answered yet, there's lots of speculation, both here in the U.S. and in the Middle East, is, well, what is his ultimate aim? Most people, I feel from my discussions and following this, most people tend to feel that what he's trying to do is put out there an outrageous proposition that he knows is not feasible, but he wants it to soften the Saudi position on normalization with Israel. This is the big prize that the U.S. under Biden and now under Trump, that they've always looked for. They want to get Saudi Arabia and Israel to have normal diplomatic relations, feeling that this would open the door to all the other Arab countries following suit. And the Saudis have actually taken a harder line position after the Trump proposal. So these are incredibly important discussions. They're going to focus narrowly on the discussions in Florida today, are going to focus on the negotiations to release the hostages and the Palestinian prisoners.
And are you on that? Are you, and the ceasefire in general, are you fearful now, given what's being said by the president about the efficacy, the solidity of the ceasefire deal as a whole?
No, I don't put a lot of emphasis on what Trump says. He says all kinds of things. He changes his mind. He clarifies. He denies. So he's not a reliable source, as the news business people say, though he is president of the United States. So what he says has to be considered seriously, but it should not be taken as a clear path towards a policy. It has other motives, some business, some personal, some family relationships, some investment opportunities, and then cajoling people on both sides, pressuring people. So it's a fascinating study and sort of kaleidoscopic diplomacy. A kaleidoscope, when you turn it, all the pieces move and then a new situation comes about. So I think that we have to let the process play itself out, focus on the negotiations, the second phase that's supposed to start. Everybody, and I mean everybody, wants the Israeli hostages released and the Palestinian prisoners released, and the ceasefire to be permanent, and the Israelis to get out of Gaza.
Okay, well, the exchange is due again for this weekend, isn't it? You could argue, perhaps, finally, Rami, you could argue perhaps that in a way he's made the world more aware of what Israel has done in Gaza.
Oh, absolutely, including American officials going to visit. And I'm hoping the media, the global media, will be able to go soon, even though many of them, including Jazeera and others, have Gazan journalists who are sending out reports. So yes, and this is what the Israelis desperately want to stop. They want to stop two things. They want to stop the world seeing what Israel does militarily and, with prisoners and all the terrible things it does. And that's why it's so widely discussed now in terms of both apartheid and genocide. And it wants to stop any discussion of the historical background to the situation in Gaza, the Palestine Zionism conflict, the Arab-Israeli conflict. It wants desperately to prevent any historical analysis. And it's increasingly unsuccessful in doing that because more and more people are going to the Middle East, they see now the West Bank, what's going on. Therefore, the trend for the Israelis is not good. They've lost their ability to completely dominate the narrative of the Arab-Israeli conflict and the Palestinian people in the West, in the media, and in officialdom. So it's quite extraordinary. I'm reading now the book, amazing book by Ilan Pappé, the Israeli historian, on the history of Zionist lobbying in the West, in England and the US. It's a 450-page monster, but it is the most amazing analysis based on total historical factual truths about how Israel has succeeded in doing what it's done, which is create a Jewish majority state in a Palestinian land that in 1920 was 93% Arab, including my family, Nazareth. So this is what they're trying to prevent, the Israelis, any discussion of this, and they're slowly losing control of this narrative.
All right, Rami, thanks for that. Rami Khouri speaking to us there from the United States, from Boston.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.